say, listen, I have lupus. I'm okay with having it. I love me. I can enjoy life because I have it. This is a reason why I'm doing what I do.
Receiving an autoimmune disease diagnosis is frightening, overwhelming, and life-changing. LaTonya Bias, PhD, experienced these emotions when she was first diagnosed with lupus over 20 years ago. Although lupus chose her, she has learned to adapt to lupus while living her life to the fullest. Hosted by LaTonya Bias, founder of the Love Life Lupus Foundation, the Lupus It Chose Me podcast offers inspiration, information, motivation, and encouragement for lupus sufferers to take back their life. Mrs. Bias will share lessons she has learned over the many years she has lived with lupus. A variety of professionals will join LaTonya to discuss what the disease is, what causes it, who it affects, the symptoms, life stories, and most importantly, ways for you to love your life with lupus. Join LaTonya as she guides you on your journey through life with autoimmune disease.
Hello, and welcome to the Lupus It Chose Me podcast. And as always, I'm excited to have my co-host, Gina Hill.
Hey.
With me today. And today's topic is about having a support system. A support system is important for all of us to succeed, but extremely important for those affected with a long life disease. So just to give you a little bit about what a support system or a chronic disease is. A chronic disease is like lupus, and it can be stressful and hard on your mind, your body, and your soul. You might think that your friends, your family, and coworkers understand how you feel. You may feel unhappy because you can't do as much as you did before you found out you had lupus. For me, I was sad and angry, but I found out later that those are some common reactions we go through. So my life and family life was changed when I received my diagnosis.
So, Dr. Bias, thank you for having me again as your co-host. I love being here and talking to you about your journey. I've been reading your book, of course, and I wanted to read something that stood out with me on page 91 as in the chapter you wrote on support systems. So I'm going to read that right now, and then I have a couple of questions for you, okay? You write on page 91, when dealing with one of my diagnoses, I struggled to recover from atrial fibrillation and adjust to the debilitating effects of joint and muscle inflammation and pain. Atrial fibrillation, or AFib, is a quivery, fluttery heartbeat. You might also hear the doctor call it arrhythmia. It means that your heart's normal rhythm is out of whack because your blood isn't moving well and you're likely to even have heart failure. You go on to say that blood can also pool inside your heart and form clots. And if it gets stuck in your brain, you could have a stroke. You say, I felt like the aspirations I had for my life had been cast out beyond reach. How could I achieve my dreams? What would happen to my children? I need to make funeral arrangements. I must save money for my children because I want to break the chain of brokenness in my family. When I could hardly lift my arms high enough to undress, I always had thoughts about death coming soon. So my question after reading that is, when you reached this place in your journey, where did you turn for support?
When I ended up isolating myself. So For many, many years, I didn't feel like people understood my journey. I didn't understand myself, but I ended up, just really just backing off, trying to Google and research and just figure out what are my next steps? What are my plans? How do I explain this? What am I going through? Do people believe me? So it was a part of isolation for years. Then, I started going, okay, well, I'm going to change the way I eat. So let me change the way I eat. It isolated me a lot from my children's sports. All my children are in some form of between basketball and football.
Mm-hmm.
It was a wrap. I couldn't go outside and enjoy sitting in the bleachers to watch them because of the heat, the sun, the absorption, and how it just turned me to become fatigued and tired and, oh my God, I need to go in, so, and people looking at me like I'm crazy, or my husband like, okay, let's go, so it deprived and it isolated me. So it just turned me, to do a multitude of things in my life. One, starting with God, that was the only thing I can turn myself to. It's like, Lord, help me. So that was one thing. And then just reading his word and changing my diet and just figuring out me. I need to do a self-plan for me, and not worry about what everybody else thinks when I have, oh my God, moments, So that's basically where it led me to, is changing and creating a self-plan for myself.
So it sounds like your first line of defense for support was your faith.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
I want to read something else you wrote in your book. You talked a little bit about this. You say, my friends existed in a world I could not function in. It was a bustling, vigorous existence. My life has been snatched, replaced by swallowing pills and being pain-riddled. I watched the life I thought I would be living with my friends and families drift farther and farther away. So when you enter this space of actually realizing, as you talked a little bit about earlier, that your life was not going to be the same, was there a support group that you reached out to, or what was your support at that moment in time?
At that moment in time, I was still isolated and trying to figure out a way of taking day by day. So I did reach out. I went and tried to find numerous support groups, lupus people who dealt with lupus groups, and it was a failure, And then I realized that I didn't have any help. There was nothing out there that could help me for support.
So when you reached out, nothing. When you Googled, you mentioned that you Googled and
lupus
online.
What is lupus?
What did you find? You said that
just what it was, and SLE and definitions and some of the symptoms. That was it. Medical MD was really good to provide different hospitals and how they support it. And then I found one large organization as well. And when I joined that organization, reached out to them. But Gina, when I tell you, all I received in the mail was pamphlets about it, and keep a journal on what's going on in your life. But at that time, for me, it wasn't about journaling. I ain't got time to be journaling. I need to figure out what's going on. OMG, I have lupus. I've been diagnosed with this disease, and you want me to journal, So it was still isolation, but yet lack of information.
I'm sorry. And you needed somebody to talk to.
Yes.
You were looking for resources that would open up a phone call, a Zoom call. Well, we weren't Zooming then,
Right
but
back then, yeah.
you were looking for someone to talk to, and at the time that wasn't available to you, is what you're saying.
Yes, I needed someone at that time to be able to say, I understand what you're going through, and this is what possibly may happen. So
Mhm,
hold on. This
mhm,
it's okay. You
mhm,
don't have to do this to deal with this. You can do this. Just a guide of what possibly I can foresee, steps on what happens when you wake up and your legs give out on you and you have to, it's hard to explain, but because now I'm about to start crying. But when you're hurting so bad you cannot get out of the bed, I
mhm,
wanted to be able to say, so hey, yesterday my legs were hurting so bad that it took me 20 minutes to get
mhm,
out of the bed. What did you do to help your motion, your blood flow back into your legs so that you can move off the bed? I'm not doing is screaming and praying. So what
mhm.
did you do? Did you use like some medicine to rub on your legs? Did you drink some tea? What did you do? So
You
that
needed
was not
somebody.
available.
You needed somebody to throw you a little bit of a lifeline, so to
Please.
speak, right?
And reel
Just
me
a
in.
little something so they could reel you in
Yeah.
from the space that you were in. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Hmm.
Listen, well, let's take a break and come back and talk some more about
Absolutely.
Living with lupus doesn't define who I am.
Living with lupus doesn't stop who you can be.
Living with lupus doesn't keep me from following my dreams.
I choose to.
I choose to.
To love life.
Lupus is a systemic autoimmune disease that occurs when your body's immune system attacks your tissues and organs. It is estimated that at least 1.5 million Americans have lupus. Diagnosing lupus can be challenging. And according to blackdoctor.org, lupus is one of the top diseases misdiagnosed in African Americans.
Help us find a cure for this mystical disease.
It doesn't affect just one of us.
It affects us all.
To learn more about this horrible disease, please go to lovelifelupusfoundation.org and help us find a cure by making a donation.
Lupus, It Chose Me. This book will change your perception on autoimmune disease. For more than 30 years, author LaTonya Bias has experienced the ups and downs of the autoimmune disease lupus. The diagnosis overwhelmed her and changed her life. In Lupus, It Chose Me, she presents a personal look at the disease, sharing a wealth of knowledge and creating awareness. She narrates her journey filled with God's grace and mercy. Lupus, It Chose Me, available now on Amazon and major bookstores.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in with our conversation on support systems. So, Dr. Bias, before we went to break, you were talking about having and finding someone to talk to, someone that could reel you in when you were on the ledge, so to speak, uh, in your journey. You started the foundation, the Love Life Lupus Foundation, and of course, this podcast. Was part of your motivation for starting those organizations and those venues because you had no one to talk to?
Yes. And so realizing a couple of things that I went through my journey, like going to my hairstylist and trying to get my hair done, but yet my scalp was just not right. That put me in a position like, okay, I need the right vitamins and minerals to put in my hair, on my scalp. Having 15 medications to take it triggered me to, okay, I need one multivitamin that's a natural multivitamin that I can take. So I created a vitamin line. Writing a book to tell my story, books to tell my story, creating a foundation to bring awareness, all of these things. And it's more, I have more, but those were the starting points of seeing the lack of information and products and services and resources that we do not have in our community. We just don't have it. And yes, so to answer that question, yes, I just feel like it's a need. We don't have it. There's a lot of imitation kind of per se, but nothing that's the real deal that can bring the word out to tell you what you need, it to be raw and uncut, to say, listen, I have lupus. I'm okay with having it. I love me. I can enjoy life because I have it. This is a reason why I'm doing what I do, because. So, yes, it is so real on why.
I want to read something else and piggyback on what we talked about earlier in the conversation, which was isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Right on page 92.
Okay.
I felt isolated for years. When speaking to family and friends, I would get questions I did not know how to answer. I became lost, longing for the sense of belonging I used to have with so-called normal, healthy society, but all that changed. The key, you say, is to avoid isolation as it can drag you down. Connecting with a support group can provide a sense of reaffirmation that you're not alone in your struggle.
Right.
How did you avoid isolation?
So I created a concept for myself, which is called the self-care plan. Mm-hmm. And part of that self-care plan was starting to communicate with my family and friends more, instead of just staying home and dealing with the pain and being depressed about my situation and preparing for my funeral and, future plans for my children. Oh no, I need to break this chain of brokenness because kids need to have something. I created this self-care plan. And part of that was making sure, like I stated, one, to communicate with my family and friends, just mm-hmm. talking to them on how I feel. Don't ask me how I feel today if you really don't want to know how I feel. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I would tell my friends all the time. So now when they call, it's either, hey, how you doing? Or what's up? Mm-hmm. Those are their two terms because they either know how I feel already based on how I answered the phone, or they really, really want to know how I feel. So that's one thing. And then dealing with my emotions. When I wake up in the morning and I know that I have pain that's out of the norm, so mm-hmm. I have to deal with my emotions and not trigger them on my family. So, and what I mean by that is if one of my children come into the room and they say good morning, it's not a good morning. It's good morning. Mm-hmm. And that's me with my self plan, because what I reflect off on them will then trigger their day to be, oh my God, something's wrong with mom. But they really don't know because you can't tell. You just saw this really emotional and heard, a negative emotional, comment. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. you really don't know what I'm going through. So I figured if I do a self plan for myself to say, okay, every day is a great day. My mindset has to be changed, because if I trigger that to you, Gina, guess what? It's gonna piggyback. And I don't want your day to be ruined because of my day is being ruined because of how I feel. So that was another one, from communication to my emotional state. And then my environment. I realized that my environment played a major part in my everyday state. Going to the refrigerator looking for sugar was not the option. And that was my daily, okay, what do I have? If not, let's go get ice cream. Let's go do this. So I knew that I had to change my environment. I had to buy purifiers. I needed to make sure that I had chemical-free items in my home so that I wouldn't have any reason for a reaction to take place. Mm-hmm. And so just small things, Using wipes, the way you change on cleaning yourself and washing your hands, instead of just washing your hands, clean them up to your elbows, using detergent, so a whole lot when it came to the environment. Then physically, I had to change. These are all a part of my self plans. And I know that's a lot, but it means a lot. And I promise one person, I'm sure you guys understand what I mean if you even attempted to do any of these items. But so then physical. So I know I can't do a full blown workout. And I used to hear from a lot of people, hey, girl, come on, all you got to do is work out. You can lose that tummy. And it's like, your workout is not my workout. My hands hurt. So if I try to do a push up, it's a wrap for me. For you, you can go on and do what hey, no, for me, I can't do that. Raising your legs up, it's easy. For me, it's pain from the toe to the hip. So I realized that I needed to do something, but not try to match what everybody do every single day. So my physical exercise consists of just walking. If I could walk 20 minutes a day, take the dog out, just walk. That was, that ended up being a part of my regimen. And then spiritually, getting up, if it's just 15, 30 minutes, or even just thanking whoever your higher power is, mine is the Lord, for waking me up in the morning, waking me up and being grateful and having gratitude. That's my spiritual, my importance, my concepts. And then on financial, making sure I don't overdo it. I don't necessarily need to go and buy this or, just because it did get to a point when I was in a depression mode, my out was shopping. I felt better when I got a new outfit, but not realizing that outfit didn't change the pain I was still going through, so. And then my community, I had to change. This is my last one. I had to change my environment, who I had in my so-called circle, my community. I realized I needed to be with people that were uplifting, that was funny, encouraging, loved life, and instead of just depressing and negative and condescending and you say hi and it's like a hi, what you want kind of, I had to change all of that. So having this and developing this self-care plan for me was very important for my mindset to program me so that I could become out of isolation.
Okay. Wow. It sounds like you have, over the course of this journey, put in a lot of work to be where you are today, which is a beaconing light and shining bright and beautiful. I'm going to just recap what I heard because I was inspired by what you said. Honestly, I was, because you talked about, areas, your mind, body, spirit, right? I love that when you talked about your body, that you set boundaries for yourself with respect to your workout. Well, whether you have lupus or not, we all need to be aware of physically what we can and can't do.
Absolutely.
That boundary. So not everybody can do a P90X workout.
That's
it
right.
Might be great if your friend can do that, but everybody's not equipped to do P90X or, those kinds of things. I really love that you talked about in your self-care plan, your spirit, tapping into a plan for your spirit using gratitude. Gratitude, I think, is the biggest weapon we have for fighting against depression and pity parties. When you look at what you have, it takes the focus off what you think you don't have.
Absolutely.
And in your case, good health.
Yes.
Finally, in your self-care plan, when you talked about your kids coming in and you giving them a good morning, how you were mindful that you didn't want that good morning to be a
reflection,
a downing good morning. You transformed your mind so that you wouldn't transmit to kids a negative mindset and a negative feeling coming from you, even though you weren't feeling well.
That's right.
Those are the greatest gifts I think we can give to our kids and to one another. So
I agree.
I applaud you for your efforts in creating a self-care plan. I think that's a valuable tool, not just for people who live with lupus, but for all of us. So thank you for that. So LaTonya,
Yes.
Dr. Bias, in your book, you say, in the end, it's entirely possible to enjoy life with lupus. All it takes is determination on your part. It sounds like you were very determined in developing your self-care plan. I talked to you earlier about the establishing of your Love Life Lupus Foundation, and certainly raising awareness through this podcast as we are doing today. You, for those who haven't listened before, you also have a PhD and you're working on other books. My question is, what are you most determined to do at this point in your life, having accomplished all that you've accomplished?
So my goal is to just bring awareness. If I could just touch one person, just you, just one person, I'm happy knowing that every day I wake up, I can spread the word and say, listen, it's okay to love life with lupus. It's okay. I do it all day. Hey, it's me. Hey, me.
I know. I see you.
I can do it. You can do it. And it's all about changing that mindset. So the main key is bringing awareness, but just making sure people know the causes, the symptoms, and the treatments to go along with that. But if I can just touch you, just one person, I'm okay.
I love it. I love that. I love your tenacity. I love your vitality. And I love that I get to do this with you. I get to be a part of your journey. So thank you, Dr. LaTonya Bias.
Thank you, Gina Hill.
Allowing me to be on your journey today and for sharing information regarding support systems. And I think that we may have some information to share with the listeners on places they can go to look for support in their area or online, as you found.
Yes, so it's still very limited amount of information. I'm in Texas, so you can do some research. You can go to a few. I wrote 4 down, so I'm going to read them off. It's Lupus Connect. That's a community where it's that you can do research. I've researched them, and they have, small little communities that you can join. Lupus Research Alliance, they have more medical information. So if you're looking for more information related on the medical aspects of your medications, which again, I'm an advocate for naturopathic, but just had to throw that out there. They have Lupus Warriors, which is on the Facebook app, whereas that you can join and just hear the different stories that people, like I've mentioned earlier in regards to being in pain or what's going on. Anybody know why I'm swollen here? That's another avenue. And then Kaleidoscope Fight Lupus. Or you can just create your own. I like to go on WebMD a lot as well. WebMD is a medical website that you can get information off of just to keep up, like for COVID, for example. I found that information out on a reliable source, which is Medical MD.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. You guys, thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share, ring the bell. What else? I can't even think of it. But please continue to follow us on our journey. Thanks for watching.
You've been listening to the Lupus, It Chose Me podcast with LaTonya Bias. LaTonya is a native of Chicago, author, and philanthropist. She has a PhD in business and is the founder and CEO of the Love Life Lupus Foundation. Although she battles lupus every day, LaTonya is committed to creating awareness, sharing knowledge, and funding a cure for this disease. Married for more than 20 years, she has 3 children and 3 grandchildren who light up her life. Until next time, LaTonya wants you to remember you can learn to love your life with lupus. You can learn more about LaTonya and her work by visiting the foundation website at lovelifeLupusFoundation.org. Her book, Lupus, It Chose Me, is available at Amazon.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe, share, and listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to stream. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. The opinions of the guests are their own and do not represent the opinions of the Lupus, It Chose Me podcast. The podcast content is informational only and is not intended to treat, diagnose, or cure. You should consult with your doctor or medical professional before you make any decisions that could adversely affect your health.